From the News Channel 5 network, this is Sportsline.
Hello, Titans Talk on your television. We are getting set for the playoffs. I'm Steve Layman. Glad to have you with us here on News Channel 5. Plus, let's talk some playoff football. Let's talk some Titans football. The big win down in Houston yesterday. Sam Sloman. Yeah, you got that right. The season, the division, everything came down to his right leg. Who would have thought that back in August before this season began? But that's the way it finished yesterday, with Sam Sloman doinking a game-winning field goal off the upright and in for a 41-38 Titans victory over the Texans that clinches the AFC South for the first time since 2008, and a home playoff game for the first time in just as long, as the Titans will take on the Ravens on Sunday at noon at Nissan Stadium. What a game it was. Topsy-turvy. I mean, really the only way the game could have ended was the way it ended. That's how bizarre it played out. I mean, you have the record chase from Derrick Henry, who was 223 yards away from 2,000 going into the game. It was a long shot. You know, the odds in Vegas did not give him a chance to really get that. Now, if you know the Texans' defense and Henry's success against the defense, maybe so, because he'd run for 211 and 212 in the last two games against Houston. But you don't expect you're just going to be able to run for 200 yards out against any opponent. And so you have that chase going on, and it very early on became clear that it was going to be a legitimate chase. He had 113 yards in the first half. All of a sudden, it became a real thing. Titans were in control at that point. Felt like he was going to get a lot of carries in the second half, and he was going to be able to get to that mark. So you had that chase going on. You had the Titans grabbing control of the game, seemingly ready to run into the locker room and open up those boxes that had all the printed out t-shirts for division champions and the new hats and all of that stuff. And then all of a sudden the defense, which has been a problem all season long, just completely went away. I don't know if they got back on the plane early or what, but the Texans scored on every possession of the second half. And all of a sudden a lead that was 24-9 and then 31-15. Before you know it, Houston had run off 20 unanswered points behind Deshaun Watson, and the Titans were all of a sudden trailing. So it's 35-31, and the Titans had to play catch-up, a little bit like they had to do earlier in the season at Nissan Stadium against those Texans. Quick start, a lull, especially on defense. Texans take control of the game. Titans had to deal with that again. And they respond with a 19-play, 75-yard drive. But even in that drive, it was incredible to see how things played out. Number one, Henry goes across 2,000 yards on that drive. So you have this momentous play, a historic accomplishment in the middle of it. And then you're trying to put up points. Henry breaks free on another run that goes for a touchdown. It looked like the perfect cap to the drive, right? He goes over 2,000 yards. He becomes the all-time rushing leader in Titans history in a single season. And then he's going to get the game-winning touchdown as well. But it gets called back for a penalty. Oh, wait, on replay, it was a clean block from Aaron Brewer. No matter, a flag was thrown, and the play comes back. So the Titans then move the ball down the field again. They completed 4 third downs on the drive. They get it down to the goal line Ryan Tannehill sneaks it in and the Titans have the lead. But wait, there's another flag for an illegal formation, which was another mysterious call. Did not appear to be the case on replay. So you back him up again, only for the Titans to eventually score on a run from Tannehill. So there you have it. The Titans are back on top. It's 38-35. They can pull it out, right? But did they leave too much time? And Watson and the Texans go right down the field. They get into field goal range, and Kaimi Fairbairn drills the 51-yarder. And all of a sudden, we're tied up with 18 seconds left. Looks like we are going to overtime for the second time this year between these two teams. But the Titans had timeouts, and they had 18 seconds. And this team has shown us time and time again that if they have any time, they are capable of figuring out a way to put some points up. And sure enough, first play out of the gate, Ryan Tannehill goes deep for A.J. Brown and connects with him for a 52-yard strike. 52 yards inside the 25. One play just like that, and the Titans are in field goal range. But this isn't just a normal field goal. This isn't Stephen Gostkowski. This isn't automatic. This is practice squad kicker Sam Sloman, who was just called out when Gostkowski went onto the COVID reserve list. He comes out to attempt just his second field goal as a Titan. First game as a Titan. First ever game-winning kick of his life from 37 yards out. Not just the game on the line, but the division and a home playoff game on the line as well. He lines up, he kicks it, and it goes off the upright and in. Can you think of any better way to wrap up that game, as crazy as it was, than a field goal from a guy most people had never heard of before kickoff, going off of the upright and in to win the game for the Titans, to win the division for the first time in a dozen years. It was a crazy game. I am rarely at a loss for words. I struggled right after the game was over yesterday to come up with what I had just watched because of the back and forth, the historic nature of the Henry performance, the total domination of the Titans offense, and yet total ineptitude of the Titans defense. Again, the swings back and forth, and then the finish. 18 seconds to go. It looked like it was headed to overtime. The Titans somehow have a prayer answered on that 52-yard pass, and then get another prayer answered with Sloman's kick off the upright and in. I guess sometimes it's just meant to be. But yesterday was also meant to hurt everybody's cardiac rhythm watching the game. I mean, if you have heart troubles, that was a rough one to try to sit through. A lot of anxious moments around the Titans, but they got it done. And ultimately, the number one goal for this team this year was to win the AFC South and have a home playoff game, something that they've not been able to do. You know, this team, for 4 consecutive years going into this year, had winning records. They got to the playoffs twice in those 4 years. But they'd never played a game at home. All 5 of the playoff games over those 2 seasons were away from Nissan Stadium, away from Nashville. And that was the goal, is to finally win this division and get back on top there. And to have the opportunity to play a game here. Now, it's not going to be a full stadium. They're not going to have the benefit of 69,000 people there. It's not going to have the same buzz in town that everybody hoped for. But it's still the goal. It was the number one goal, and they accomplished it, to win that AFC South and to get the home playoff game. And that should be acknowledged, and it should be celebrated today. And now you got to go play. Now you move into the second part of the season. And the NFL is always unique in this way, in that essentially the regular season is part of one calendar year. And then the playoffs are part of the next calendar year. And I know yesterday's game technically is in 2021, but essentially you wrap up the 2020 season with the Titans being AFC South champs. And now you go into 2021, and we're going to find out if they can make it even more special. Can they go win? Can they beat the Ravens at home this weekend? Can they go win on the road after that? Can they make a run at the AFC Championship game where they were last year? Could they knock off a team like the Chiefs? Could they make a run at the Super Bowl? Those are the questions now. And here's the thing that's also great about this time of year is every single game this time of year, when you win it, it's like getting 100 victories. The excitement builds to a fever pitch, and the season continues. And you'll remember this from last year. I mean, the Titans were the last team in the playoffs last year, in either conference. Last team in. They go on the road to the defending Super Bowl champion Patriots. Not many people, if any, gave them a shot. And they go up there and they win. They end the New England dynasty. It's Tom Brady's last game in Foxborough. And the excitement built with that. People were fired up and it was like, okay, what a win for the Titans. Now they go to Baltimore and they've got no shot. But it's great to see them in the divisional round. And then they go into Baltimore and they play the game of the season and they knock the Ravens out at 14-2. They knock them out of the playoffs and they advance to the AFC Championship game for the first time in 17 years. And now the excitement is off the charts. Nashville was partying. It's almost hard to imagine that now, given everything that's happened in the last year. But this city was on fire in its excitement for the Titans at that point. And then they go to Kansas City, and I mean, leading up to that week and leading up to that game, and even in the game, was just such a big stage for this team and for this franchise and even the city and the state, despite the fact that the games weren't here, just to have them on that stage. And it just goes and goes and goes. And if they would have won that game, it would have been bigger in the Super Bowl by a long shot. And you would have felt that for 2 more weeks. And then maybe a win, and you got that parade at the end. But that's the thing about the postseason, is every single game that you win, on its very fundamental level, extends the season by a week. And so you just get to enjoy it that much longer. And get to talk about it, and get to live through it, and have the excitement and the nerves and everything that comes with it. But it also takes you from good team to potentially great. And that's not a slogan the Titans have talked a lot about this year. That was kind of the slogan for last year and what they were trying to do. But make no mistake, that's what's on the line here. This has been a nice season. It has been a season that gives them a banner or a championship or however you want to look at it necessarily in the NFL to win the AFC South. 11 wins. That's as many wins as they had last year, including the playoffs, when they got all the way to the AFC Championship game. So it's been a good season. But this is where you'll really remember things. And for the Titans, the next few weeks, starting with Sunday, and got to win Sunday or it's all over. But this is the time now where you're really going to find out what this team's made of. What's the legacy? Are you a good team or are you a great team? Can you take it to that next level? And the questions you have to have is this defense anywhere near good enough to help the offense, which is great, keep winning games at that level? Because the Titans' offense is as good as anybody in the NFL. The Titans can win a Super Bowl with this offense. There's no question about that. The question is the offense good enough to overcome, like they did yesterday and like they have many times this year, overcome in the playoffs a defense that's as bad as this defense is? And that is the question that we're all going to have to wait to find out the answers on. It seems hard. And that is why the Titans are a 3.5-point underdog at home against the Ravens, a team, by the way, they've beaten twice in the last calendar year. And I like the matchup, by the way. The Ravens are great, don't get me wrong. Lamar Jackson was the MVP a year ago. This team was 14-2. They've won their last 5 games after their COVID issues and the Titans winning in Baltimore. They're playing great down the stretch. There's no question about that. They maybe should be the favorites for this game. But when you look at it and where the Titans defense is its most vulnerable, it's the lack of any kind of a pass rush at all. And then the ability to just hold up consistently on the back end when quarterbacks have all day to throw. I mean, it goes back to the same problem they had last year against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. It's just been exacerbated this year because Jadeveon Clowney's done nothing for this team. Obviously on injured reserve now, Vic Beasley got cut. All the efforts they made to improve that pass rush have actually not helped at all. The pass rush is worse than it was a year ago because those guys didn't live up to anything for this team. But the teams you worry the most about taking advantage of that are the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, maybe the Bills with Josh Allen as well as he's played. Big Ben took advantage during the regular season with the Steelers. Phillip Rivers did at times. I think every team in the AFC playoffs is more equipped to attack the Titans' weakness on defense than the Ravens are. And so when you just look at this game, perhaps it's the best possible matchup. It doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, the game last year, the Titans controlled, but certainly Baltimore had a chance to win. The game this year went to overtime before Derrick Henry ran off as a winner. So, I mean, it's going to be a game. There's no question. You expect that in the playoffs. But when it simply comes down to matchups, if you are looking for one matchup that is maybe a little less dangerous for the vulnerable Titans defense, maybe it's the Ravens. Maybe it's how they can defend them sets them up a little bit better than against other opponents. Just something to think about. Our phone lines are open, 737-7767. We want to hear from you tonight here on Titans Talk. Get in, talk about the game yesterday, the roller coaster ride to what is now an AFC South championship, and your expectations for this team now that they are in the playoffs. Do you have the same concerns I do? Do you believe this team can do what it takes to go from good, the good season that they've had so far, and go to great and make a run in the postseason to something that could be truly, truly special and memorable? We go to the phones and say hello to Gordon. Gordon, you're first up tonight. How you doing? Welcome to Titans Talk.
Thanks, Steve. Well, first of all, I agree with just about everything I heard you say tonight. The first thing I want to say is congratulations to this team because this is their first division championship in a dozen years, and that's something to celebrate. And I do think that we have one of the best offenses in the world. I mean, in the world, in the league. But you know, you can score 30 points a game, but if you got a defense that allows 30 points a game, you're going to be breaking even a lot. And we're fortunate that we have as good a record as we do. I think, well, you know, the Ravens are going to be very motivated because we knocked them out of the playoffs last year and we beat them earlier this year. They're going to be very motivated. So I can see why maybe they're the favorite. But I agree with you. I think maybe of all the teams we might be playing, our best chance might be against the Ravens because the Bills, you know, well, we beat the Bills earlier this year, but I think Josh Allen's playing on a much better level now. And I don't even want us to have to face Patrick Mahomes. I'm hoping somebody beats the Chiefs because I don't think we can.
Yeah.
But I had a couple of questions. The other thing I wanted to say, if the glass is maybe with the defense about 60% empty, but 40% full, because we did get 4 sacks against Deshaun Watson, who's a very mobile quarterback, and we haven't done a lot of that this year. So I think that's something that, you know, to take a look at as a win in the win column for the defense. but they're gonna have to do a lot more of that in the playoffs. But the question I had is, a bad call like that illegal block. I guess that those penalties can't be challenged. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the other question I have is, consistently when the Titans have had 3rd and 1, they put in Jeremy McNichols, and I don't understand that, because you got your pounder, Derrick Henry. When you got 1 yard to go for a touchdown, they put him in. Why don't they do that more on 3rd down with 3rd and 1? So anyway, those are my comments, and that's my question.
Yeah, no, very interesting stuff. And Gordon, as always, thanks for the call. The question on the penalty, you cannot challenge it, unfortunately, because they would have won that challenge, because it was a very clean block by Aaron Brewer. In terms of the package, Jeremy McNichols has pretty much become the 3rd down back for this Titans team. They pass more than they run on 3rd down, especially if it's longer than 3rd and 1, 3rd and a yard and a half. And when that's the case, oftentimes they're in the shotgun and it's a passing situation. And McNichols has proven himself to be a better pass blocker than Derrick Henry has. So it's really just a function of the package that what the Titans are in. And it's a way to get him off the field. I mean, let's face it, Derrick Henry ran the ball, 33 times yesterday, 34 times yesterday, something like that. And that's a lot. That's a lot of wear and tear. When you put that on your body, it's 386 carries for the season for Derrick Henry. That's a lot of wear and tear. If you can get him off the field and have him avoid a few more hits, it's probably the right thing to do. But yeah, it puts you in a little bit of a bind in some of those short yardage situations, because at 3rd and 2, if Jeremy McNichols is on the field, it maybe tips your hat a little bit more that you're probably throwing and not giving him the ball there. But the Titans have been pretty efficient on 3rd down this year as well. So kudos to Arthur Smith being able to figure that out, even with that sort of tip of the hat there, or tip off of what they are doing. So that's something to watch for, though. And I think one of the things that will be interesting in the postseason is what type of wrinkles the Titans have. They were very good at that last year. Arthur Smith, I thought, did a great job in the playoffs last year of bringing counters to stuff that the Titans had consistently done throughout the course of the season. Bringing something new to the table that defenses had to prepare for. And I'm very curious what you do with that now. Is there a 3rd down wrinkle there? Is there something else that they want to do? That's interesting to me. One area that sticks out to me when it comes to that is at the goal line. How many times have we seen over the last several weeks of the season, with Henry in the game, down there in short yardage situation or at the goal line, that they run that zone read play where they fake it to Henry and essentially the entire defense goes with him, and Ryan Tannehill is free to run for the 1st down or walk into the end zone for the touchdown. I mean, we saw it in Indianapolis. We saw it in Green Bay. We saw it yesterday in Houston. The Titans have run that consistently down the stretch of the season. Now you get into the playoffs and you take that extra step. I got to believe that play and that setup and that personnel is going to be high on the list of the Ravens this week of things they talk about in a red zone or a goal line situation. And it's going to follow for every team that the Titans face from this point on. Is there a counter to that? Is there a wrinkle the Titans have off of that when somebody does step up to stop it, that they have something to play off of it with? That is a real intriguing thing to me. And Arthur Smith's been great. He's been really, really good in his 2 seasons as an offensive coordinator, which is why he's reportedly on the list of every single head coaching opening out there. That doesn't mean he's a favorite for those jobs or any job, but he's at least somebody that every single team that has an opening has an interest in speaking with at this point, which tells you a lot about what the Titans have done and what Arthur Smith has done. But I'm very interested to see what this offense looks like in the postseason as teams try to gear up to try to stop them. Even more interested to see what the defense can do, if anything, to try to be better than what they've been. Because as Gordon, the caller, said, you can score 30 points every game, and the Titans are pretty good at doing that. But if your defense is giving up close to 30 points a game, it's a shootout. It's going to come down to the 4th quarter, and can you get a stop, or Can you get a play like they did yesterday for a field goal or for a last-second drive? And it's just hard to pull that out every week. The Titans have been really good at it. They're 4-1 in one-score games this season. They've put themselves in position to win those games, and they've done it more times than not. But I don't know if you want to do that or try to attempt that for 4 games in the playoffs, because everybody's good there. Everybody's got the ability to win those games, and at some point, you got to think your luck would run out. All right, got to take a break. Our phone lines are open, though, 737-7767. Call us up. Be a part of Titans Talk tonight. A big win yesterday, up and down though it was, and now an even bigger game coming Sunday in the playoffs against the Ravens. This is Titans Talk on NewsChannel 5+.